Thanks very much, guys. We're live on Facebook now on June Fest issue number 2 of Lockdown Chats in association with June Fest Newbridge and CelticCon. And we have these series have been brought to you with the help of the Art Acts grant from Kildare County Council. And so this is a unique episode. So we thought we'd have a chat with a few comic convention organisers all around the country, and we'll have a chat and get an insight of people all around 4 provinces. Actually, we've one we haven't got, so we've two from the one. We should listen. We've done the best we can, as Sean knows. And so we're getting an insight of all the different organisers and give you an idea of who they are, what we do, and what work goes on behind the scenes. So I'll quickly run through who we have on the call here. So first person up is James Bambury from Kingdom Comic Fest. Then we have Nate Kealy, who's also from Kingdom Comic Fest. And we have Ed Doyle from Cosmic Rebel Cons in Enniscorthy, County Wexford. And we have Paul Trimble from Enniskillen Comic Fest up in Northern Ireland. So we're getting a good crisscross around the country. And so guys, first of all, I'm just going to get you all to introduce yourselves and let people know who you are. So James, you're first up. So just give the guys an idea who you are and what you do. Quick overview. We'll go into detail now in a minute.
Hi, I'm James. I'm one of the organisers of Kingdom Comic Fest, as David has said. And first of all, I would like to thank David and CelticCon and June Fest for having us as part of this today. It's a very unique and interesting opportunity we have, so I hope everyone enjoys it.
Thanks very much. So I have to, as we were saying off earlier, I have to give the credit to June Fest and Steve and June Fest to come up with the idea. So the initial idea is just to have the comic panels and bring them online. But with Zoom and stuff, we have this kind of unique insight that we can do some other things. So we thought we'd, where you're kind of, a panel, you're limited who's there and who's in the room, whereas on Zoom and Facebook, you don't have that. So James, just a little bit about yourself. What do you work as, or if you want to let people know, or what's the day-to-day stuff you do?
I can do. Maybe a little bit unusual. It's fairly far removed from organising a comic convention. I'm actually a dairy farmer, primarily. It's hard to know what to say about that, really. As I said, it's not. There's a couple of transferable skills, like, doing a good bit of business deals, of course, and interacting with other people, but it's opposite in the fact that you spend most of your time kind of on your own, really, in nature, which is just, it's totally different, really.
Most of the guys are artists or writers or anything. We're used to spending forever on our own as well, So next up we have Nate. So Nate, how are you getting on there?
Hey guys, thanks for having us, by the way. I'm the co-director of Kingdom Comic Fest, which is an event down in Kerry, and this was supposed to be our third year, but unfortunately couldn't happen because of the coronavirus.
So thanks very much. So what people don't really know is that Nate, you're one of the original guys at CelticCon as well. So we've gone full stream with you. We've gone full circle with you.
Yeah, I've worked with various other conventions. I think I must have been on in 2018 or 2017. I was on the committee for it must have been easily 70% of the conventions in Ireland. But now I'm just kind of focusing on Kingdom Comic Fest. And maybe I'll give a hand to a few others, or work as maybe on a low level organizer, maybe just taking a chill these days.
Yeah, no, listen, you're on the ball with us anyway. Any questions or contacts we need, you're the man. You're still in contact with everyone. So next up is Mr. Ed Doyle. How are you getting on, Ed?
All right now, David, thanks.
So just introduce yourself, Ed. Let us know what your day-to-day is. Sorry, we missed you with that, Nate, so I'll go back to you. Sorry, Ed, work away.
Yeah, so I'm one of the organisers of Cosmic Rebels Con, along with Brian Thomas. We've been running the con for a couple of years now. And yeah, unfortunately, due to COVID-19 virus, we had to postpone it for this year.
So you have a full-time job as well, don't you?
Indeed, yes. I'm a hotel porter, and as a sideline, I'm an independent comic book artist.
Oh, very good. So you actually run the comic convention, the Cosmic Rebel Con in the hotel you work in. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And that hotel actually has a sister one in Portlaoise.
That's right. The Midlands. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the Midlands Park Hotel is a sister of the Enniscorthy one there. Yeah. So look, kind of what I'm kind of saying to guys as well, kind of let them know what the day-to-day stuff of people, and like no one's doing this full time. We're all volunteers. There's no one making money out of this stuff.
Oh no.
So just give an insight. So you actually during the lockdown, you've had a bit of fun with for your own projects.
I have, David. Yeah. Plug time. I think. I've been working on a 64-page digest comic with my writing partner Alan Holloway, who's based in Bristol. Based on the Star Blazer comics. Our comic is called Sentinel. 64 pages, a complete story throughout. This is the first issue, and the second issue is already printed and will be going on sale very, very soon.
Excellent stuff. Listen, I have to say, with the old lockdown, I've seen you've been drawing all day long. I won't lie, I've been jealous, Ed. I've been jealous of you.
I've been kept busy with the lockdown, all right. But you've been working on stuff too, David, haven't you? You have your own projects.
Yeah, look, we have a few things in the line there. I got a short film commissioned there a few weeks ago, so I'm producing a short World War I film, which we'll talk a bit more in future, please. But yeah, I have two graphic novels I'm working on, pitching to publishers, and it's not easy, lads. It's not easy to get things going. So great respect for anyone that gets anything going. So yeah, Paul, you're next up. Paul, can you hear us?
I can, yes, David. Thank you. Yeah.
Your video is after freezing, but people can hear you anyway. But Paul, yeah, what's your day-to-day stuff?
I work as a sales representative for a cleaning and hygiene company. So I spend my day driving around all arts and parts, calling with customers, trying to develop up new business. It's part of the Cleaning Doctor Network. There are franchises all over Ireland. So maybe some of you have a cleaning doctor locally. If so, it's all part of the umbrella that I work under.
Very good. I just muted you on this, Paul, just in case you have an echo on coming through. Is he echoing on the call there, lads? Is he okay, is he?
No, it's all good.
Okay. So, Paul, you do the Enniskillen Comic Fest and OMA Comic Fest. Do you want to give us a bit of an oversight into them?
Well, the Enniskillen Comic Fest we launched back in 2016, and we run on grant assistance from both the Arts Council and the local council. We saw what the lads up in Derry had done with the 2D festival a number of years previously, and we had liked what they had done, and we thought, well, if they can do it up in Derry, why can't we do it in Enniskillen? And it was a very steep learning curve at the beginning, and I've got a good team of lads that work with me on it, and I think that's very, very, very important.
Yeah, look, you're very lucky in that sense, but yeah, you have a great history with conventions and stuff. You've been going to them for 30 years or so, have you?
Well, that's one of the advantages of being an old timer, in that you've sort of seen and done so much. The first comic convention I went to was in London in 1982, just when I had started working. The guest that year was Frank Miller, who had he was just finishing his Daredevil run at that time, and I've sort of been to usually a couple of comic conventions pretty much every year ever since. So I've met a lot of people, made a lot of contacts that way, and even the organisers themselves over in England, I've got to know quite a few. So it all helps.
Very good. So the trick to organising Comic Cons is go to as many Comic Cons. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, that's it. Certainly does no harm. You know, you can see what other people do. You can take inspiration from what other people do. You can say pick the bits that you like, the bits that you didn't like. Maybe then you can adapt or work around. But I think something like this, a bit of experience, really does no harm. It allows you to just to watch and, as I say, pick the direction that you want to go in.
Absolutely, no, that's brilliant there, Paul. So I suppose go back to you there, James. So what exactly is a comic convention to you, and what is unique about Kingdom Comic Fest?
I suppose, naturally enough, like number one, comic books. When you go to an Irish comic convention, what you will find is local artists, local writers, and locally made, well, Irish made, I should say, content. There's a hell of a lot of talent in Ireland, and the comic conventions are just a fantastic place for Irish artists and writers to bring their books and their content to the public's attention. With regards to what makes Kingdom Comic Fest unique, I think we've a very close relationship with a lot of local clubs and organisations. I'm part of the Listowel Board Nights and the Tralee Board Nights. So until March anyway, we used to run weekly board game nights in Listowel and Tralee, which were quite successful, and they were growing in popularity every year. But unfortunately, of course, COVID has put an end to that for now, and we've managed to take our game nights online, but obviously we're hoping to get back in person. With regards to local groups, we also have the local kids gaming group, KDYS The Guild. They've been involved advertising their group at all the Kingdom Comic Fest so far, and with the likes of Tralee Archery Group. So if you're a local club or organisation, we always have space for you to advertise at Comic Fest, because when you are involved with a group like that, getting your name out there and meeting like-minded people and presenting your group or organisation to them can be quite challenging, I think.
Absolutely, no, that's brilliant. Just I quickly speak on the CelticCon side of things. So yeah, absolutely, you've hit the nail on a few things there. So kind of one of the things that we do is just introduce local artists, local writers, and absolutely local groups. So in Portlaoise, we linked into the Art Centre, the Dunamaze Art Centre down there, and the guys are just brilliant there. So that was been our home since last year, and we think the venue is really working out for us, and we'll continue working with them. And same with the June Fest in Newbridge. The June Fest is a brilliant community festival. I know Nate visited last year, but he can just see what the guy is doing. Yeah, look, we've actually slaughtered this year with COVID-19, and it's absolutely killing everyone. But look, we'll stay safe, stay apart, and hopefully in the not too far future we'll get back together and start having physical events and see how we get on, you know. But yeah, so that's kind of my thing. So like I work full time in the pharmaceutical industry. So I work in Pfizer in Newbridge, and I work shift work, 12-hour shift works, and I just do all this stuff purely for the love of it. And look, I have a background in event organising and stuff like that, and like I managed hip hop acts and stuff a couple of years ago. So it didn't come out of nowhere, but it's the comic thing is something I've always been into, but I never really attended conventions or anything. But my thing would have been an event called Dice that used to take place in Dublin, part of the Big Bang Comics in Dundrum. So those guys ran a convention a couple of years ago, and they had this massive event where creator events, so that they invited guys from Marvel and stuff, all the editors and stuff, and they actually signed some guys. I think Declan Shalvey and Will Slimey actually got signed to Marvel from that actual event. So that'd be my kind of thing there. But Nate, I never actually got to ask you there about your day-to-day stuff, but give us an idea of that, and then let us know in general what a comic convention is and what you bring to the table to them, maybe.
Well, I work as like a digital marketer, mainly focused on small to medium-sized businesses. At the moment, I'm doing more like search engine optimization or SEO, social media, and stuff like that. At the moment, a lot of e-commerce stuff. A lot of clients are a lot of e-commerce stuff. One of them is like artists from Ireland being able to sell their stuff over in America. That kind of that kind of stuff. Another business is kind of like a raffle business. So a lot of that I can kind of bring over to the event stuff, like getting the word out and like the kind of like the web design side of things and the social media side of things. Even when me and James are working together, we always going to have a strategy of like how we're going to be able to sell the tickets and this, that, and whatever. So I feel like that kind of experience benefits what I'm doing. A comic convention for me is probably an event that in its heart is for like the love of comics, like the writing, the artwork, and that sort of thing. But now over time, it's kind of brought in like other kind of mediums as well, like the movies and the TV shows and that sort of thing. So that would be what a Comic Con is to me. When it comes to Kingdom Comic Fest, what I think that I wouldn't say is unique about it, but what I'm proud about it is that I'm able to. I agree with Paul, because I've like worked on so many other Comic Cons. I got to see people do really amazing things in Ireland and the UK. And I guess when you see something work, it's a lot easier to be able to replicate it, or that it exists and you could do it. So like doing that sort of market research and working with all the other events let me be able to run some of the best parts that I've seen in events in Ireland and the UK. One thing that I think might be a bit unique about us that I'm proud of is how we deal with the youth and that sort of thing. That we ran we ran an art competition with secondary schools and primary schools, and it was quite successful. We had like 2 walls covered of entries, and we've been talking about like short story competitions and like 3 or 4 page comics and stuff like that. So that's what I'm proud of that we've been doing anyway, and that we're going to expand on that.
Yeah,
sorry, I was gonna say if I actually just may expand on that there. I was just with the art competition, like for us, just inspiring the next generation of artists and writers is like it's a massive thing for us, because like Ed and yourself, David, you know it, that like when you're a teen, in your free time you could be sketching away like your favorite characters, or you might be coming up with your own characters. But when you have kind of an art competition like that, you're reaching out to the next generation of artists, and they might have only been sketching for themselves. And if they send away their entry and they get a prize, they might just start thinking to themselves, do you know what? Maybe there's something a little bit more to this than just how to pass time. And they will see, Irish artists and writers and stuff, and they'll just see that there's an avenue here for me to produce my work to other people. And Nate is right. We will be introducing a short story competition. Hopefully we'll open that up in August, and the winners will be announced on the date that Kingdom Comic Fest would have been taking place. But of course, due to COVID, it isn't this year, unfortunately.
Oh, very good. That's brilliant stuff, lads. Yeah, look, from our thing in CelticCon, Nate would be familiar with this, but we actually have a mascot, which is a Sky Connor, and Connor actually came from an art competition that the guys ran in the very first CelticCon, and Eugene.
Froze.
Yeah, I was going to say when all of us kind of freeze, it's okay, but when the host for the day freezes, we know we're in trouble at that point.
I was getting scared thinking it was me there.
Yeah, I think we all were for a little while.
He's gone.
But maybe we should go on to you, Ed, then.
Yeah, well, I said you all know me.
I can, yeah.
Let's Paul. Oh, okay. Yeah, so Cosmic Rebels Con.
I can still hear you okay. It's Ed on the screen at the minute.
Can you hear me, Paul?
No, I think he's responding to David earlier. We were having some technical difficulties before.
I'd say, yeah, he's talking to the thing. I'd say just continue on there, Ed.
Yeah.
So with Cosmic Rebels Con, I wanted to bring something local to Enniscorthy. Like, I was so used to looking at and going to conventions up in Dublin and some of the major cities that I just wanted to bring something different. So that's how the con originated, really, to bring like-minded people that probably would have collected comics or figurines or Funko Pops or whatever, but probably were the only people doing it and they had no one else to meet up with. So for me, a Comic-Con is where like-minded people can go and talk to other people, you know, that have the same interests. They love comics, they love collecting figures, they love cosplay. That's the main thing as well. I like to emphasize that a Comic-Con isn't a con without cosplay. So and I'm delighted now that we've had a good few cons. It was just a pity that we couldn't do one this year.
What's your proudest, what are you most proud of about the convention, like, that you've done so far?
I think it's getting so many people that are interested in geekiness and comics and all that to come together. I mean, we're surprised with the numbers that have attended so far for the cons. Delighted for people to come along and participate in the cosplay competitions. They actually see people dress up in their favorite comic book characters or, you know, movie characters, and come along and just celebrate, you know.
Apologies, guys. It looks like my internet just dropped. Cheers for keeping the show on the road there.
Oh, that was it, David. Yeah, but
panicking and try. I could get bits and pieces there. I must have hit the wrong link getting back in, but I hear you taking it over there. So fair play to us. So Ed, yeah, thanks very much. I'm not sure how far you got there, but
yeah, no, I was just saying that. I mean, the reason we brought Cosmic Rebels to Enniscorthy was to have something different in town. You know, we're so used to Comic Cons in cities that it was nice to bring something local and free. Like, as you all know, the con is free admission. So just to get people involved and get them, you know, it might be people that are not into comics or not.
That word free is bad to some of us here. Come on now, come on.
But just for people that might be curious, and then when they come in and like to see the setup, to see the traders, to see the people dressed up in cosplay, you know, and to see local artists as well. That's the one thing I like to emphasize. I like having local artists and independent comic book publishers at a con as well. Like, Comic Cons all start off as comics, people illustrating comics, showcasing the comics. I know, as what Nate was saying, over the years, we've had a lot of merchandise, Funko Pops, all that kind of stuff. But at the beginning, it was all about the comics. And that's what I like to emphasize too.
Very good. Paul, thanks for staying on the line there. So what's unique about Enniskillen Comic Fest, Paul?
What's what again? Sorry, David.
What's unique? What's the idea of
it? Well, we are comic focused primarily. I mean, maybe that's the unique point. Comic conventions have evolved over the last maybe 7 or 8 years. They've diversified, they've changed, and the Enniskillen Comic Fest is very much comic centric, and I like to me, comics are every bit as important as your film, TV, books. Comics are as valid a storytelling medium as that, and that's what I want to portray. I love comics, and I have done ever since I started to read them. And I'm always never afraid to tell anybody that I read comics, and I'll talk to anybody about them, and I like to portray them in as positive a light as I possibly can, and educate people on the diversity of comics, that they're not just for kids. There's an entire range. There's more to comics than the Marvel movies. The there's a wide range of genres, art styles, all sorts of different stuff, and it's to make people aware that there is all that out there. And ideally, I would like everybody to love comics the way that I do.
Absolutely. Myself and Ed have been nodding in agreement all the way through that, Paul. Yeah, no, absolutely. Comic books are definitely for everyone, and they're as broad as films. I do tell people, like, if you're into romance, if you're into horror, you're in whatever genre of films, even LGBT plus or whatever, all that stuff is comic books. It's a visual storytelling. I think as Irish people, we have that culture, that story and folklore culture that we all love. It's ingrained in us. I think it's the new level of it, really, you know. Is there anything else you want to add to that there, Ed?
No, I went to Enniskillen last year, wasn't it, Paul? You won't say it, but Enniskillen last year, and it was absolutely amazing. I actually got to sit beside the legendary John Wagner, and that was a big buzz for me that day.
Absolutely. Paul can't hear you there, but Ed was saying there, Paul, that he was with Enniskillen last year, and he got to meet one of his heroes, John Wagner.
Yes, it was great having Ed here last year. We've been friends for quite a while, and it was lovely to actually get to meet him. And I arranged that as a special treat for him, that I got to have a table beside John Wagner. So I was delighted to see just how it made Ed's weekend, and that made me happy too.
Look, if there's anyone that's going to be appreciated by that, it's Ed, you know. Any comments on that, Ed?
Well, just to say thanks to Paul, because it really did make my weekend. I mean, to sit beside the guy who wrote Judge Dredd and Strontium Dog and all those is just unreal. And he actually got to, he came up to me when I sat down. I said, do I know you? And I said, I don't think so. I said, did you do these online 2000s satire strips called The Whole Tooth? I said, yeah. And I had a sample of them with me, and he actually took them off me, so that was cool.
That's really cool. So that's.
I was going to say, sorry. Did you have your Judge Dredd cosplay with you on the day?
No. I was behind the table, James, with all my artwork and comics and stuff like that. So, well, look, I was. I mean, look, beside the legend, you know, I was up on cloud 9, you know.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. Yeah, look, that's my thing, even local level. I actually got back into comics by a guy from Dundalk called Tommy Kealy. Tommy Kealy was a guy, and he's took a bit of a break, but he's coming back now with new comics now. But Tommy was one of the first kind of Irish comic book artists that I've kind of came back across, and I kind of realised then that there was a few Irish lads doing this stuff again. You know, there seemed to be a couple of years there where no one was doing it, and then it all kind of came back, all kind of through Dice. When Dice, those conventions took place, I kind of got back into it, and I just refound my love for comics again. Not that I ever lost it, but I kind of, once I seen Irish guys doing it, I kind of said, just better get back in and dabble in again. So, James, the COVID-19, just obviously you made a very sad announcement during the week, but I think what I wanted to tell people with this kind of chat between comic convention organisers is that the work still goes on. So just let guys how your couple of months were going for you the last couple of weeks, months.
Yeah, I suppose the main point is, even say without COVID, the work is always going on behind the scene. I mean, you're always thinking about something. You're thinking about, what can I add to the convention? You know, what guests could I get? You know, you have to be changing it up constantly every year, make it bigger, better, fresh and different. And COVID never really changes that. But I suppose the biggest thing from an organizer's point of view would just be the uncertainty around COVID and COVID restrictions. Like because I think the early days of restrictions were kind of mid to early March. And obviously we were about to launch our vendor applications at that point, but so we naturally enough held off on that, thankfully. I suppose we were lucky in regards that we were an October convention, because we hadn't done any ticket sales yet. We were holding off on them, so we didn't have any refunds to hand out, which would be a big headache, I would imagine, for other conventions who are running in spring, early summer, and who may have already had a lot of ticket sales gone out.
Yeah, so we were, just from a CelticCon point of view, so we were flat out organising kind of January, February, and then all this COVID-19 happened, and I found straight away, like, I was trying to contact guests and stuff, and there was a real uncertainty of like, I'm not going to take a chance of this. And so we were like, our events were happening in June, so back in March I was thinking, oh look, they'll be back to school the last month, and the leaving cert and junior cert will take place, and there'll be restrictions and whatever. But then straight away we just realised how bad this thing was, and reports came in from Italy and stuff, and then it was like, this thing's not going away. So then it was like, we were thinking these other conventions were being cancelled, and we were being the big lads like, oh yeah, they're not going to take place and we're going to take place. And kind of was like, as things went on, it was like, no, this is like opening up, like just some businesses and pubs opening back up now, and the amount of work and restrictions they put in, we would have to have that in place for a 1 or 2 day event, and it's just, that would have been an absolute nightmare. So Nate, thanks for staying on the line there. Nate's on the train there. Nate's on the train there, by the way, so that's why he has the face mask, and so he's not actually doing live cosplay there, and it's not a Snapchat filter right there, so that's the real deal there. So Nate, what's your experience of COVID-19? And
I guess at the beginning, right after our last event, Kingdom Comic Fest ended, we literally went straight into organising the next year, because there was a lot to go into it, because we were going to add 2 extra floors. But then when COVID first got announced, we thought we're in October, that by the time our event comes around, we'll have a good few months to advertise. So we were starting to think that we'll see how things are in March and stuff. No, we'll see how things are at the end of March and April. And we thought by July, like, everything would have been normal. But then we made a promise to ourselves that if Dublin Comic Con in August didn't happen, then we'd have to sit down and consider cancelling our own one. Because a big event like that everyone loves, that's so close to ours, you know, that we also had to put into consideration, even if legally by the government we were able to run October, that even if there was a 5% chance of like someone catching it, we don't want to put our attendees, we don't want to put them through that risk and stuff like that. So
look, from our point of view, we were looking at like, what do? Do you put artists in behind perspex screens? Do you give them masks and gloves? Like, it was really, and then I was like, is this a comic convention that we actually want to hold? You know what I mean? Where people can't talk to their local artists or their favorite artists. That's if you can get them, and what we've seen that you couldn't get them.
Yeah, and even the hotel that we run the event in, I think that closed down for a while, so we were kind of waiting for them to kind of open back up as well, just so we can, you know, have a talk with them and potentially postpone it to the next year. But hopefully that by next year that this is kind of calmed down, and you know that we're able to run our events in 2021. But we don't know how this is going to go, to be honest, you know.
Yeah, because I think as well, kind of with COVID, I think we as an organizer, we have to work with the assumption that COVID is probably still going to be there for all of next year
until there's a vaccine, which could take a while.
Yeah. I think the thing is that we'll just have a little bit more certainty next year. You know, we will know if we have to have our volunteers in full PPE gear, for example, whether or not, you know, you could touch vendors' merchandise or not, and you know, different aspects like that which do make a convention what it is, and it's close contact with artists and everything. So at least next year we should have a little bit more certainty about the restrictions regarding events like this.
So what's your line on things, Ed? What was the Enniscorthy side of things?
Everything was placed. The vendors were selected. Everything was ready to go, and then the virus came along and that put the kibosh on everything. So at the moment, like what the guys have said, we don't know. Even next year, we just have to wait and see what the government says. Guidelines, that kind of thing. I have at the moment a comics only event planned for November, but I'll decide on that in September if there's anything the government has said regarding this virus.
Yeah, so just tell us a little bit about that. So this is a completely new event. This was the very first one of them.
Yep, it's just going back to basics. It's all about comics. There's no merchandise, no figures, just all comic books and comic book art, and it's basically inspired by Paul's Enniskillen Comic Fest. So at the moment, I have 12 vendors, and they're both selling comics and artwork, and independent publishers as well in that mix. But if it goes ahead, so it depends on September. If it goes ahead, everyone will have to be wearing masks and gloves. That's the only way, and there'll be obviously hand sanitation station and stuff like that there. But I just had to play it by ear. I just had to wait, see what happens.
Yeah, look, thanks a million, Paul, for holding on the line. I know you're having some audio issues; you can't hear us, but we're just talking about the effect of COVID-19, Paul, on our plans for comic convention. So what's Enniskillen and Omagh Comic Fest experience with COVID-19?
Yeah, it was really something similar to your own experiences, David. I mean, it was the work was really cranking up in January and February, and then the pandemic began to get increasingly more serious, and we dreaded having to make the decision after lining up what we felt was a very, very good guest list and all the plans that we'd made. And
you had a very special event this year. You were doing like a battle commemoration.
Yes,
tell us about that?
That was the theme of this year's show. We've had back in 2017 we were officially a part of the 2000 AD 40th anniversary. Then in 2018 we had Dan Abnett over, so we sort of themed the whole convention around Dan Abnett and the guests that have worked with him on his various different projects. And then 2019, unfortunately, we were part of the tribute to Carlos Esquerra. This year would have been the Battle of 45th anniversary.
Do you want to just mention who Carlos is, just for people listening?
Oh, sorry, yeah, Carlos Esquerra, legendary comic creator, worked on co-creator of Judge Dredd, Strontium Dog, Major Easy, worked on Rat Pack, El Mestizo, you name it, Carlos drew it. Probably the most well-known and iconic artist in British comics. So this year, yeah, it would have been the Battle of 45th anniversary over both Enniskillen Comic Fest in May and the Omagh Comic Fest in September. But then a decision had to be made, and it was a bit of a heartbreaker to cancel Enniskillen. We hoped that we might have been able to run something in Omagh later in the year, but like yourself, you start to look at perspex and you start to look into PPE, and part of the fun of a comic convention is really to get to meet the creators and maybe get a selfie and get just to be a bit of personal time. And really the safety measures that we were having to look at was going to drain all the fun out of that. And as you said, I mean, is it really something that you want to run under those circumstances, just for the sake of it? So in the end, both Enniskillen and Oma now have had to be postponed until next year.
Yeah, listen, we can all echo that there, Paul. Yeah, just from our point of view, look, we've been working on this, and we had the very first June Fest one last year, and we're so excited going back next year. And we had it was June Bank Holiday weekend. We had a date and a big family event, and then the family event was cancelled, and we didn't think we'd it affect even the end of June, and then it all kind of just realised how, just as you were saying, Paul, as the guys were saying about PPE and stuff, was like, do you really want to run a convention like that? Like maybe next year we might have to, but like we had to skip. We just couldn't see it. And this year as well, there's my little man in behind us here. But it just wasn't a convention that we wanted to do. All that hard work for 1 or 2 days work. So James, give us just as I was talking. James, what's your thought on what kind of vendors, kind of geek culture guys, what kind of people come to Kingdom Comic Fest?
Like any convention, I mean, there's a massive variety. There's loads of comic vendors, loads of different artists with different styles, loads of writers, independent publishers, crafters. I mean, it's impossible to put your finger on what will be on sale there, because there's just a little bit of everything there. Board games, just everything. I assume you're similar, Ed, are you?
Same, James. Yep, what you've said there, exactly the same. Artists, vendors, crafters, cosplay, gaming, all that.
But yeah, kind of like to add on to what like James said, that like we break everything into like different parts, and then every event we're always talking to each other about how we can improve the gaming side of things, how we can kind of improve the artist side of things, even when it comes to like feeding the artists who are there in the artist alley, giving them water and all that sort of stuff, and potentially bringing in like European talent and stuff like that, because while we first started, it was mainly just focusing on Irish artists and creators and that sort of thing. But as I said, I have like a little word pad on my phone, and then we break each section up, and then that's pretty much how me and James work.
What about yourself, Ed? What kind of vendors and stuff comes to Enniskillen? Enniscorthy?
Much the same as what James was saying, just a mixture of vendors, artists, people selling their own handmade stuff. Last year I was delighted to actually have a few 2000 AD artists over from England for the con. So I had Stephen Austin, and I had Tom Foster, and I had a few others, Lyndon Webb, and also had local, Owen Coveney was there too, Michael Carroll was there, and a few local artists as well. So it was great to have them on the con. So.
Just yourself, Paul, thanks for holding on the line there. So what kind of vendors and other people do you guys have at Enniskillen?
We have a diverse range of different vendors there. Any back issues. We have obviously a lot of the writers and artists. A lot of the self-publishers will come to Enniskillen or Oma to launch a new comic or a new graphic novel. We try to prioritize writers and artists. We try to prioritize creative people over merchandise dealers. I would much rather give a small press writer artist the space to promote their work rather than maybe some merchandise or something like that. So it's primarily creative, but we have all sorts of applications for tables, and generally speaking, our table allocation disappears sort of very, very quickly within a day or two after we announce. So get in early if anybody that's after a table for next year.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Great advice there.
I'll be there, Paul.
Poor Paul. Ed said he's going to be there, so I'll stick his name down now there.
Yeah, don't worry, Ed. Now I'll have you at the top of the list.
Cheers.
Ed's like one of those guys. At the end of the party there, you have to call the guards to get rid of him. You know, you have to call Judge Dredd to get rid of him.
I was going to say it'll be a horrible realization when Ed turns up as Judge Dredd to throw him out.
Yeah, I think he has a split personality there. You have to like grab himself, throw himself out there. Yeah, lads. So I've worked my way through the questions there. So thanks very much for your patience and a few technical difficulties, but we're keeping the show running. So James, it's 2021. Look, the whole 2020 was the eyeglass thing and perfect sight, and this everything fell apart in March this year. But like 2021, like hopefully we can get something going on. So what do you think Kingdom Comic Fest has in store, or is there anything you can kind of?
Well, it's very difficult to answer that question. I think, as Nate said earlier on, Kingdom Comic Fest 2019, it was on the bottom floor of the Brandon Conference Centre. There are 3 floors in total. This year, if it wasn't for any like if things went ahead as normal, we would have, put something on all 3 floors and increased our diversity of things available to do and to see and to buy on the day. So our goal is to do that, but if we still have social distancing restrictions, then obviously we will have to, space everything out, and we won't be able to do quite as much as we would have hoped. But even still, with the extra space, it should be the biggest, best, and most diverse Kingdom Comic Fest yet, I hope.
Good. Listen, we're looking forward to that already. Yeah, look, I know COVID-19 and all, it's just putting a dampener and anything, but we can't officially make plans. But look, thanks very much. You're after sharing that about the different floors and stuff. So Nate, have you any echoing of that or anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm excited for. Obviously, the event that we ran last year, we put in our own money and stuff like that. So the event went well. So now we have more money to play with. So I'm really excited because I got into kind of the conventions because I was a big comic reader. I collect Silver Age Marvel, Silver Age DC and stuff like that, and key issues. Big into that, getting some of my favorite characters' first appearances. And when you mentioned dice, one of my favorite experiences is meeting Scott Snyder and stuff like that at dice. And I remember one of the first comic conventions in Ireland was the guys who ran dice, but it was ran under a different name. And Jim Lee was there in the mid 2000s and stuff like that.
Wow.
So Jim Lee for me is one of my favorite artists of all time and stuff like that. So for me now we have a bit more money. I want to bring in a lot of people's favorite maybe European artists and stuff like that, or writers and stuff like that. That are working for some of the big companies. So that's what I'd love to do in 2021.
Just yourself there, Ed. What's the plans for your conventions? I know you've one planned for November, but
that depends. That depends now. September will be a decision time for that. But for next year, all going well, I hope to have all the vendors that were signed up for this year to be there next year. If there are restrictions still, then we'll probably have to reduce that number. That's what James was saying. It'll have to be spaced out. There'll have to be a lot more room for people attending. But if these restrictions are still there, people dressed up in masks, in face masks, not like costume masks, face masks and gloves, it's still.
Maybe that's what we need to do. We get everyone to cosplay as the guys from Mortal Kombat, the guys that cover their face, stuff like that. I think the creative community would come up with a few things there.
I was going to say we could have the world's largest ER and Grey's Anatomy cosplay competition, perhaps.
Excellent idea. That has to be the team, you know. Just yourself there, Paul. So 2020 has been a shambles, as we know. But what's the future plans in 2021 for yourself and Enniskillen and Oma?
Well, can I just maybe start off, David, and say I'm sorry that my participation in this has been limited due to technical problems. I really was looking forward to interacting with the rest of the guys and hearing what they had to say, sharing their experiences. And it's been disappointing that I haven't been able to do that. Thank you for giving me the gist of the conversation. I'd like to wish all the rest of the guys the very best for next year. And it would be nice maybe to try and keep in touch on these various things. Maybe we could organise something like this again at some point, maybe later in the year.
Absolutely, Paul. Yeah, look, we're looking at having different ones of these. So what we're thinking of doing with these is teaming each one for a different aspect or something like that. But no, absolutely, this is a really good thing, and I think this is quite unique. I haven't seen, like, there's people doing Zoom chats, there's people doing Zoom whatever, but I haven't quite seen anyone come up with this idea yet. So thanks very much, guys. So there's a few comments come in there on Facebook and stuff. So someone was gutted to have all the cons off this year. Love meeting with people, the conversations and the crack. Great to have this connection between all the events. So people are actually really connecting with that. So there's another one here. Dice Encounters, looking forward to hopefully cons going ahead next year. So Dice Encounters, they're one of the guys that we had as vendors. Had marked down one of the new guys, and another comment there from Carol, one of our CelticCon committee guys, saying roll on 2021. So I'm not quite sure what you mean there. Do you mean like the whole year? Can we just flip 2020 and just get it over and done with? And another comment there from Dave Scottson saying really missing the conventions this year. So Dave's another one of our guys, looks after our gaming side of things in CelticCon. So guys, no, listen, this has been brilliant. So thanks very much, Paul. Thanks for the patience there of staying on the line. You can just hear me, you can't hear the guys. So listen, thanks very much. Thanks a million, James. Do you want to have a signing off comment there on anything you want there?
I'll probably just sign off the exact way I started and just extend my gratitude to yourself, CelticCon and June Fest, for having us. It has been a really interesting, unique opportunity. This doesn't happen, to get organisers of different conventions on together. And I think Paul kind of mentioned it, and there's definitely something we should probably do again, maybe this time next year, when hopefully all our conventions will be going ahead as planned.
Yeah, that'd be a great
podcast.
Yeah, look, we're talking about maybe podcasting these as well. But yeah, look, what we might do is actually when the events are happening that we have some of these, so you can kind of promote your events and stuff. So definitely, yeah, I think it's the way to go. What's your final comments there, Ed?
Well, like what James said, thanks, David, for having me on. Great meeting up with the guys here too. I really do miss Comic Cons. Like you can see from all the stuff behind me, that's the stuff I usually sell at tables. So I miss all that,
Yeah, look, you've been with us from the start, Ed. Yourself opened Celtic Comics in Portlaoise, and yourself, you invited you down to Cosmic Rebel Con there a couple of years ago as well. It was a really fun event. And no, it's definitely great to, even the conventions are great from kind of meeting people and person that we're kind of Facebook friends and stuff, and it's just great meeting people up. I think that's my thing with conventions as well, is the whole community aspect to it, the whole creative community. And my whole mantra with these things as well is that sports and team events get all these praise and money and funding and grants and stuff, but there's a whole community, and as we've seen with the lockdown, everyone's consuming content, everyone's consuming the creative online content that comes from artists, writers, musicians, poets, right across all the genres, not just comic book stuff. So Nate, I know you got dropped off there, you'll come back to us, fair play to you. So what's your closing comments there, Nate? Is there anything you'd like to add into the mix?
Live long and prosper. Tupac and Biggie for life. We'll all be back. But yeah, no, I'm excited for all the cons to come back, and you know, maybe the break will be good, and we'll all come back stronger.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks a million, Nate. So, Paul, do we leave it with you? How are you? Have you any final comments or?
Well, just to say, to reiterate, is what you said, David, 2020 has been just a huge disappointment, and really all we can do is look forward to 2021 and picking things back up again. I'd like to wish you all the best with your projects. I really like to wish Ed all the best with Sentinel, which I enjoy hugely, and hopefully we can follow up on this, and you know, just everybody pool knowledge and work towards making 2021 even better.
Thanks a million, guys. So listen, I just want to thank you all for taking part. And I know it's all over comfort zones and this, so thanks very much. I know we had a few technical difficulties. I got kicked off the internet. Nate got kicked off there, and
yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, as a comic convention organizer, every year, all of us, we approach writers and artists and other people to ask them, could they possibly do a panel at our events? I think if we had said no to this, we forfeit our right to ever ask anyone to do a panel in the future. So it's been a great opportunity.
Listen, it's recorded now, so it's legally binding now, you know. People will call it if it don't happen. But no, listen, guys, thanks a million. Ed, you're mad busy doing kids' books and all these other things. Do you want to let guys know about that, or where your website and stuff?
Well, I have a few Facebook pages. The Sentinel, if you just look up on Facebook, the Sentinel Comic, you'll get the Facebook page on that. So issue 1 is for sale on that, and I said issue 2 is printed at the moment, so that'll be on sale very soon. And then you have my Ed's Doodles page on Facebook. So yeah.
What about yourself, James? Is there any Kingdom Comic Fest Facebook and website, or?
The website is a work in progress. Until then, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, just at Kingdom Comic Fest.
How about yourself there, Paul? How are you? Where can people find out about Enniskillen Comic Fest and Noma Comic Fest?
There are Facebook pages for both, David. If you look just under Enniskillen Comic Fest or Roma Comic Fest, you'll find those pages with all the information, dates, guest lists, etc., etc. Everything will be posted on there. And I also run a Battle Fans Facebook page too, for anybody listening in who happens to be a fan of the old British Battle comic.
Excellent stuff. I'm a member of that myself, and look forward to. I'm amazed by the content that comes through those groups. It's just amazing. How about yourself, Nate? Is there any kind of links or anything you want to promote?
Yeah, I guess I'm like the event manager for the Republic of Players. I'm also doing a bit of marketing for them. They're, in my opinion, are probably Ireland's biggest gaming community and stuff like that. And they're doing tournaments all the time online. Like every week there was like a UFC one, there was like a Formula 1 one. You can find the Republic of Players on Instagram, Facebook, and the Facebook group is going really well. So I recently became a member of them. So that's currently one of the things that I'm working at the moment that I want to promote. But I'm hoping to do like more creative stuff and more event stuff when the coronavirus thing kind of simmers down a bit.
Excellent stuff, guys. Listen, we're coming up to we're over the hour there mark there. So listen, we've covered everything there. That's just absolutely brilliant, lads. So if you want to leave there, you're very welcome. But lads, I just want to thank you all. I just want to mention as well that we invited a few female organising stuff, and just people are actually back working and stuff, and it just wasn't happening. We invited Emily and stuff from OmniCon and stuff. It's just the way it worked out. It wasn't planned this way. But no, guys, thanks very much for everything and taking the chance with us. We're going to do a few more of these. So if you have any people, any teams that you want to let us know or suggest, please do. And hopefully we get the conventions running in the next few, within next year anyway. or later on this year. But listen, we'll see how things goes. Just for myself, I'd just like to thank Junefest once again for having us on board. This great idea, just a brilliant idea. And yeah, look, it's a bit of work goes on behind the scenes getting these up and running, but they're so good. And it's good for us to introduce what we do to other people. And there's people out there that have never been to a comic convention, that haven't a clue what they are. So hopefully after this, they'll see what they are and give them a go. Even try your local one, try the free ones, and then go to the bigger ones. But like Dublin Comic Con and stuff is a different kettle of fish than what we do. But they're such good organised. Yeah, so thanks a million, guys, to Junefest committee and all the guys for taking the chance again. And this has been episode 2, and we'll see you again with Lockdown Chats number 3.